Hi, my name is Gordon, and this is 9 White Deer Brewery.
Okay, so welcome along. This is the first video in a series of videos that we're going to be making. We're going to show you everything we do here in the brewery. So a step-by-step process of how we make these ingredients, barley, roasted barley and hops, and turn them into some of our delicious beers. Nothing to hide. We've no secret rooms in this brewery that you can't see. We're going to show you everything, explain how we use local producers, the very best of Irish ingredients to turn it around and give it to you. If there's anything in particular you'd like to see along these series of videos, be sure to leave a comment below. We read every comment, we'll interact with you, and don't forget to like and share and follow us along. So in the first of the videos, we're going to talk a little bit about the ingredients that we use. So we try and use local as much as we can. We think it's really important that we're sustainable. We don't go importing barley more than necessarily, and just try and support our local community as much as we can. So with that being said, our malted barley comes from the Malting Company of Ireland based in Cork, and they buy from the farmers from West Cork all the way up as far as Kilkenny to get some of the best barley. They malt it, so they put it through a process that converts and some of the starches to sugars and opens up the cell formations from green barley to allow us to do our bit of work, which converts the rest of those starches into sugars. So it may look like standard green barley, as we call it, or barley that we'd see in the fields, but it's a good bit sweeter. It tastes like your breakfast cereal. They're lovely packets of starch. Our base malt, which makes up about 80% of our brew, is made from malted barley. There are three types that we use. So we use a stout malt, we use a lager malt, and we use an ale malt. Obviously, depending what beer we're making. Really, the colour is the same in all of them. You'd think a stout malt would be darker, but it's not at all. Stout malt is probably the hardest working of the malts out there. It converts almost all of the starches into sugars, which feeds the yeast, which makes alcohol. Our stag stout, it's of the style of a dry Irish stout. So obviously you've got that from wine. You know if a wine is dry or if it's not, meaning that there's some sugars residual in it. And if they're a really small amount of sugars, it gives a dry finish to it. And it's the same in beer. Base malts can be roasted to various levels. There's umpteen versions of it, all the way up to something like this. So this is our chocolate malt. It's called chocolate malt because the colour, the smell, the flavours that are in it, it's coffee and chocolate and all the flavours you'd expect in a stout. So it's nothing to do with chocolate, although we do add that separately into our stout, into our bottled stout. And the taste is very intense, so you don't want to use a lot of these. Your base malt should be most of the malt you're going to use. So our base malts, and we have speciality malts, and I could fill the table with speciality malts. There's a lot of them, but we're only using a very small proportion of these. Otherwise the flavours get too intense. Our two core beers, our flagship beers, the stout and the lager, they don't use a whole pile of these because it just gets overwhelming. You get palate fatigue, and really we want to make beers that you can enjoy, you can take your time, and you're not done after one, so to say. Another ingredient that we'll use is hops. So these are hop pellets, and they're just from hop flowers or hop cones that are put through a hammer mill and compressed. It's just for ease of use, packaging and storing. So they look like pellets, but really they're just milled hops. And so the smell is really intense. You get citrus, piney, all those flavours that you get in beer, all the way up to pineapple, orange. They all come from hops. There's not necessarily fruit put into it to make those flavours. The other ingredient is yeast. So we'll show you that when we come to the process. So we have water, barley, hops, yeast. That's it. And that's all we need. So we've spoken about the barley, we've spoken about the hops, we'll cover the yeast in a bit. But water makes up the largest ingredient in beer, and brewing water is critical. It makes a difference in everything. We treat our water as minimal as possible, and we're lucky we don't need to. The source of our water is the Cork and Kerry Mountains. So the water that lands in the Cork and Kerry Mountains comes down, joins in the streams, into the river, into the Sloan, passes outside the brewery. We collect that water, we filter it, we take out any organics, tastes and flavours out of it, and that's it. It is the absolute perfect Pilsner water, but we're really lucky that we don't need to go on a deep bore well where we have lots of minerals in the water. We just have really clean, pure water, comes in off the Atlantic. We get it, we make beer, as simple as that. So the last ingredient is yeast. You don't see it here on the table. They're tiny little cells, single organism cells. Really important. They say a brewer makes wort, and we'll explain to it what wort is later on in the process, and the yeast makes beer. And that's so true. We just make something the yeast loves. We give it the ideal conditions, and that goes off and it creates beer. So it creates alcohol and CO2 in equal volumes. We capture the CO2 because we like being sustainable, and the alcohol and flavours are remaining in the beer. So there you have it. Now you know all the ingredients that goes into making our beer. And in the next video, we're going to show you how we mill it and how we prep the grain before we go brewing. So we'll bring you through some of the brewing process and that. Don't forget to like, comment and share. If you'd like anything answered specifically, ask it in the comments. We'll answer everything we can. So until then, we'll see you in the next video.